All right, a new report here. This is also eye-opening. This is from Cal Matters. It suggests more and more California teachers are using artificial intelligence to grade students' work. Is the practice the way of the future, or does it pose a risk to the learning experience? Maybe it's both. With more on the use of AI in the classroom, I'm joined by Mattmann, international expert in AI and machine learning. Chris, good to have you. Always good to have you. Let's get your overall reaction to this Cal Matters report and the fact that more California teachers are using it to grade students' work.
Marla and Alex, it's great to be on. Thanks for having me. The challenge with this report is that all we've heard to date related to the use of AI in the classroom has been around students. We've heard about New York when ChatGPT first came out and was really widely beginning to be used in February and March of 2023. We heard about New York trying to shut down its use for students in schools, but we haven't heard much about the teachers using it until this Cal Matters report. Basically, the report is saying that teachers are using AI for all sorts of things, such as generating lesson plans, such as grading student assignments and reports, and even coming up with new forms of curriculum development. And the challenge that they have there is that we haven't heard a lot about the ethics and the regulations in terms of committees looking at teachers' use of this in the classroom.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, California is just one of 7 states that has issued guidance for artificial intelligence, but it's just that, Chris. It is just guidance. You don't have to you're not required to follow this guidance. There's a Senate bill that is working its way through the California legislature, which would change that. Let's talk about the pros, though, because these teachers say, hey, I can get more work done. I get faster feedback to my students, which makes them better writers in the end. This was an English teacher who was featured in this Cal Matters report. Your thoughts on the pros?
Yeah, so my thoughts on the pros, Marla, are the following. I'm a dad of 3 kids. You know, I have a 14-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 6-year-old. I told my son when New York was saying don't use it, I told my son, Christian, use it. I said, hey, use it because it's a good way to ideate, come up with ideas. But I said, don't use it to write your report. Use it to come up with ideas. That's the way that I see that the teachers describing using this. And it's probably the broad set of folks that are looking to use it that way. Obviously, if the teachers don't have to spend as much time grading essays and they can, on the margin, get the output from the AI, it's good 80% of the time. The real challenge, and I think we're probably going to talk about the cons, the real challenge is that 20% of the time that it's not.
Yeah, because AI is generated by humans, which we are imperfect. Therefore, AI will never be perfect. It will always be imperfect. So yeah, talk more about the cons.
Yeah, Marla, so the cons. So here's the challenge. AI depends on data and fuel to run. Now, the fuel and the data for teachers is much different than the fuel and the data for students. So the fuel and the data for teachers are all of those lessons plans. They're all of the teachers' grading and notes. Parent of a high schooler here and, kids in elementary school, a lot of that is still paper. And so my worry is all of that teacher's notes, chicken scratch, the way that they grade is not captured in the way that modern AI like ChatGPT and tools generated by OpenAI have been trained on. They have not been trained on the way these elementary and high school and junior high teachers operate. And so the challenge is they're going to get things wrong because they haven't seen that training data. So I would hope that these committees, that Governor Newsom, that the state of California are looking at forming, really focus on digitizing the way that teachers act, because only then will we get the AI to behave like them.
Yeah, so it is Senate Bill 1288 that is making its way through the California legislature. This would just simply create a body, a group to monitor AI. So this is the very first step. If you're in charge, what do you think is first and foremost, number one, that needs to be in that bill?
100%, Marla. The number one thing I would do is I would create a sampling of teachers across K through 12, teachers on the margins, teachers that have biases, teachers that don't have biases, because you need to show AI everything. And then I would focus on digitizing their, chicken scratch, their forms. Some of them are in Google, some of them are not. Get all that data together and begin setting the guidelines for what that data set could look like. And then start partnering with the commercial companies like OpenAI and others to ensure that the tools that are being pushed out actually represent teachers. Because otherwise it's going to be, and it even stated that in the Cal Matters report, that 20%, when it gets it wrong, it gets it wildly wrong because it hasn't seen the way that teachers actually grade. And as a parent of a student, three, I would be very upset if it didn't represent the way, that the teachers that are grading them actually could do. So I would focus on the data and getting it prepared.
And just so I'm completely clear, and we're out of time, there is no real ban on AI in the classroom right now in the state of California.
There is no ban, Marla, and this committee will be very important, and this bill will be very important, and that's what they should focus on.
Okay, Chris, appreciate you so much. International expert in AI and machine learning, Chris Mattmann. Thanks.
Thanks, Marla. Thanks, Alex.
All right.